Hi, I'm Melissa George with The Mindful Heart. Instead of telling you just one story today, I'm going to tell you a few fables. The fables today all have a similar moral or meaning, but they come from different writers. Did you know a fable writer is called a fabulist? That is so much fun. It makes me want to write some fables. But let's see if you can hear the common moral in these fables. The first is from a very well-known fabulist called Aesop, and it's called The Milkmaid and Her Pail. One day Patty, the milkmaid, was going to market, carrying her milk in a pail balanced on her head. As she went along, she began calculating what she would do with the money that she would get from the milk. "First, I'll buy some fowls from Farmer Brown," said she, "and then they will lay eggs every morning, and I will sell those eggs to the parson's wife. And with the money that I get from selling the eggs, I'll buy myself a new pretty dress and, of course, a fancy hat. And when I go to market, won't all the young men come up and speak to me? And that Molly Shaw will be so jealous, but I don't care. I shall just look at her and toss my head like this." And as she spoke, she tossed her head back. The pail fell off and all the milk was spilt. So she had to go home and tell her mother what had occurred. "My child," said her mother, "do not count your chickens before they are hatched." The next fable is by a fabulist named La Fontaine, who wrote it in French, but it was later translated into English. La Fontaine turned many of Aesop's fables into clever poems, and this one is called The Dairy Woman and the Pot of Milk. A pot of milk upon her cushioned crown, good Peggy hastened to the market town. Short clad and light with speed she went, not fearing any accident. Indeed, to be the nimble tripper, her dress that day, the truth to say, was a simple petticoat and slipper. And thus bedight good Peggy Light, her gains already counted, laid out the cash at single dash, which to 100 eggs amounted. 3 nests she made, which by the aid of diligence and care were hatched to raise the chicks, an easy fix, said she, beside our cottage thatched. The fox must get more cunning yet, or at least leave enough to buy a pig. With little care and any fare, he'll grow quite fat and big. And then the price will be so nice, for which the pork will sell. 'Twill go quite hard, but in our yard I'll bring a calf and a cow to dwell. A calf to frisk among the flock, the thought made Peggy do the same. But down at once the milk pot came, and perished with the shock. The calf, the cow, the pig, the chicks, adieu. Your mistress' face is sad to view. She gives a tear to fortune spilt, and then with the downcast look of guilt, home to her husband empty goes, somewhat in danger of his blows. Who buildeth not sometimes in air his cots or seats or castles fair, from kings to dairy women all, the wise, the foolish, the great and small, each thinks his waking dream is best. Some flattering error fills the breast, the world with all its wealth is ours, its honors, dames, and loveliest bowers. Instinct with valor when alone, I hurl the monarch from his throne. The people, glad to see him dead, elect me monarch in his stead, and diadems rain on my head. Some accident then calls me back, and I'm no more than simple Jack. The last fable I have for you today is from Arabian Nights. It's called The Story of Al-Nashar. So Al-Nashar was the 5th brother in the family. He was very lazy and, of course, very poor. And when the father died, the sons divided his property. Each one received 100 pieces of silver. Al-Nashar, who hated labor, bought a bunch of fancy glasses and displayed them in a large basket at a stand in the marketplace. He then waited for customers with his back against the wall. While standing there, he began talking to himself, and this is what he said. "These glasses cost me 100 pieces of silver, which is all I have in the world, but I shall make 200 by selling them. And then I'll buy more, and I'll sell those, and very shortly I'll have 400. In fact, it will not be long before these produce 4,000 pieces of silver, because money, they say, begets more money." and I shall soon have 8,000 pieces of silver. And when that becomes 10,000 pieces, I will stop selling glass, and then I will trade in pearls and diamonds, and I shall become so very rich. I will have a splendid palace. I will have a great estate and slaves and horses. I will not, however, stop buying and selling jewels until I have acquired 100,000 pieces of silver. And then I shall be as great as a prince, and then I can do anything I want. And I will demand to marry the daughter of the Grand Vizier, who no doubt will be so glad because I am so important. The marriage ceremony will be performed with the utmost splendor and magnificence, and when I go to the vizier's palace to retrieve my wife, I shall have my horse clothed in the richest saddle, ornamented with diamonds and pearls, and I will be attended by a number of slaves, who will all be richly dressed, and the vizier shall receive me with great pomp, and he shall bow to me and show me the more honor. And on our way home, I will appoint 2 of my handsomest slaves to throw money among the crowds of people on the street, so that everyone may talk about how generous I am. And when we arrive at my own palace, I will be too busy to speak to my wife. She will dress herself beautifully and wait for me to see her, but I will not look at her. I will be too busy doing important things. And when her mother comes to visit, she will beg me to speak with her daughter. Sir, she will say, for she will not dare to call me son for fear of offending me. Do not, I beg you, do not treat my daughter with scorn. She is so very beautiful and entirely devoted to you. But I will be too busy counting my 100,000 pieces of silver to hear her. She will then say to my wife, let's cook a great feast, and surely your husband will not refuse. My wife will then come with a glass of wine, inviting me to dinner, and she shall stand trembling before me, so fearful that she spills the wine and spoils my silver. In anger, Alnaschar turned to push her away, and he was so interested in his imaginary story that he thrust forth his foot to kick the lady, and by that means overturned his basket and broke the glasses into 1,000 pieces. So, did you catch the common moral? If you said that daydreaming can be dangerous, you've got it. I'm Melissa, and I would love to have you join me next time for another exciting story at the Mindful Heart.